again from sunny Cyprus. It is day 2 of the IFX International, and I have had such a mind-blowing day that I just could not contain my excitement. And I thought, whatever different exhibitors that I've been visiting and all the different panel discussions that I've been hearing and being a part of, I just want to compress all of that into a quick episode and share all of those updates with you. But for those of you who are new here, hello and welcome. My name is Kamalika and I go by the pseudonym of the FinTech Chronicler, and I am here as a speaker at the IFX International Expo, where we've been geeking out about all things FinTech and crypto and payments and banking related, that it's been like a kid in a candy store sort of a moment for me. I'm just super excited, as you can probably tell. But yes, so there were like a bunch of panels that I attended and a bunch of people at the exhibition that I spoke to, and there were a lot of common themes. So I just thought I'll kind of put all of those together into broadly 4 buckets. Now the first bucket was about how marketing in FinTech plays a big role for the growth of FinTech. And here, one of the central concepts that was there from like a lot of advisors, as well as with a marketing head from FNP, who had a panel discussion, or rather a fireside chat on around the same topic, which was that marketing for FinTech should keep in mind one very central concept, which is building trust with your consumer base. That is of paramount importance, because at the end of the day, as FinTechs, our core job is to make sure we safeguard the money of our end consumers. We're playing with the money of end consumers. We're facilitating the growth of money of our end consumers. She also spoke about how marketing in general has not really changed that much. I mean, one of the questions to her was about which is the best marketing channel that's out there in this AI-driven world. Surprisingly, the answer was still Google. I mean, yeah, I was shocked. We talk about, answer engines and all of that, and making sure that our content is AI discoverable and AI friendly and all of that. But guess what? Once an AI engine does spit out your brand's name, consumers' instinct is to still go Google and figure out what is it that others are talking about you. So it becomes very important that you have a very good Google strategy as well. The next thing was, of course, being AI discoverable and creating your own organic content that lands in a language that lands with your end consumer, your ideal consumer persona in mind, and you create content organically for the consumption of this ideal consumers, because this ends up building trust with your ideal consumer segments that are there. And then the fourth thing was, of course, tying up with influencers, because influencers have managed to build a very vast and trusted kind of a following amongst them. And the best thing is, a lot of these influencers talk to their audiences, and if this audience happens to also be a part of the ideal consumer persona that you have in mind, it's very important that you identify and leverage upon this influencer strategy. On an allied subject was this panel discussion that I heard, which was about TikTok for FinTechs and why FinTechs should become TikTok friendly. Now, before you start, hear me out, because TikTok is banned in India still. I did want to spend some time, because the concepts that they were discussing for TikTok, I think they kind of are pretty much prevalent for any short form video first social media platform that's out there. Why? Because human psychology, once it's kind of proven that people prefer to see and hear from other people on social media. The brand's message and very, very value adding to your end consumers. Putting a face and a trusted known face actually adds a lot of credibility, and influencers have worked really hard over the last decade to make sure that they build that sort of a connect, that sort of a trust factor with their audience in mind. So does this mean that everyone should start having like an AI influencer, or does this mean that everyone should start having like an influencer tie-up? Yes and no, because you don't want to seem to be too pushy. You want the influencers to also have their own creative capacity, so that whatever content they do put out about you comes out organically from having used and trusted your brand, because that also ensures that the end consumers are able to trust you as well. It does not seem like a push message out to them. Otherwise, it just becomes like yet another channel for your marketing, right? The second reason why they mentioned was that apparently world over, as a mean of infotainment, that is, information in a very entertaining fashion, video is becoming a very, very big hit channel. So for brands also to have like a TikTok first strategy, or in India Reels first strategy, it becomes very important because your educational content can be delivered in a language, in a medium that's easy to consume, and actually something that does not make it seem like a classroom educational setup, which I know a lot of us are kind of scared of. And the third thing is the ability to collaborate with other brands. And I know this is kind of controversial, but if another brand and you can probably help solve a problem for the same consumer segment, and both of you come and collaborate with each other on a social media platform, it humanizes you first, and second, it also makes it seem like as if you're not there for a push sale sort of a strategy. You're there to ensure that the lives of your consumers are made better. So that again ends up for the whole trust environment. So these were two on the marketing aspects that I found very, very interesting. The third panel is something that's very close to my heart. It was all about open banking and open finance. And for those of you who have been with me for a while, know that I've spent a good 1.5 years in the open finance ecosystem in India, building it not just as a part of the account aggregator system, but also as a volunteer for Sahamati. And it's something that's very close to my heart. So whenever someone says open finance, I'm always there on the front row. And this was a very interesting panel because we had some very elite people talking over there from across the globe. One of the very crazy use cases, or rather I should say not crazy, but a very viable use case, was about building a avatar, but not for the financial service provider, but for us. So imagine that there is this Kamalika avatar who knows exactly what Kamalika's future aspirations are, where she wants to be financially, what her current assets are, what her risk profile is, and how is it that she wants to grow her wealth. And that avatar, with the power of open data, open banking and open finance, can actually build very unemotional, rational and logical strategies for her, which gets executed in real time. And this was so amazing a concept for me because remember Warren Buffett used to say that when Mr. Market is going up or feeling exuberant, that is when you start being cautious. And when Mr. Market is feeling low and being very pessimistic is when you show optimism and start buying more. And that becomes very difficult because of the entire loss aversion and greed that human behavior is kind of baked in with. But if I have a machine doing that for me, that means I'm leveraging open data, open banking and open finance over there, and I'm taking out all of the negatives of my emotion. Wow, why didn't I think of that? And then coming to the last panel, which was one where yours truly was a speaker at. This was about the future of banking and what is it that banking would be like in 2050. It was, oh my god, it was almost like a spiritual discussion to a fair extent. And I think one of the very interesting things that I found was that apart from me, almost everyone else felt that in 2050 we're not going to have banks anymore. Like, banks are going to become irrelevant. And the most interesting part of all of this was that people are increasingly starting to believe that fintechs or banks, whoever do stay relevant, would stay relevant because they become entire lifestyle management companies where finance is just a part of it. So that was very interesting a concept to me, and I definitely see the potential of it. But maybe because I've been a banker in the past, it's hard for me to digest that banks won't be around anymore. Anyways, that's it for a very quick update. I would want to catch up with some of the other expos as well that I've not had a chance to visit. Until